One of the richest men in America may soon get even richer at the expense of thousands of people who live in mobile homes. He's chairman and majority stockholder of a company waging war on rent control. Tonight, how the company's rent hikes and lawsuits could drive thousands of Californians from their homes. The Vincent family has lived in the Contempo Marin mobile home park in San Rafael for 8 years.
We worked very hard to get our house here. This is what we could afford.
Like many mobile home residents, the Vincents own their house but rent the land it sits on. Their lives were turned upside down a few months ago when they got a notice from their landlord almost tripling the rent from $735 a month to nearly $2,000. Steve Vincent is a boat mechanic on disability. Even when he's working, the family can't afford that kind of rent.
I'm just really distraught. I don't know what to do.
Contempo Marin is also home to many elderly and disabled people, some on fixed incomes. They're all being threatened with huge rent hikes. They didn't think this could happen because San Rafael has a rent control law to protect mobile home residents.
It's an important principle because we value enabling people from all walks of life to live in our community. And this is important in terms of providing affordable housing.
But the owner of the Contempo Marin mobile home park sued San Rafael. And a few weeks ago, a federal judge ruled that the city's rent control law for mobile homes is unconstitutional. And in court, ELS lawyers have argued that rent control unfairly takes the value of the land away from the park owner and gives it to the homeowners instead. So when sales prices rise, the residents get the money, not the company. The judge agreed, but the city is appealing. For now, the court put a hold on rent hikes, but it's just temporary. The attorney for San Rafael says the outcome of this case could affect people who live in mobile homes all over California.
Without a question, there are about 100 cities and counties in California with similar laws.
Contempo Marin is owned by a company called Equity Lifestyle Properties, known as ELS. ELS owns more than 300 mobile home parks nationwide. Almost 30 are in California, many in or near the Bay Area. At park after park, residents are complaining about huge rent increases. Ray Newman lives at an ELS park for senior citizens in Modesto, where many people have seen their rent soar.
They have to make a decision as to whether they're going to buy food, pay the rent, or buy the medication to keep them alive.
So who's putting them in that impossible position? The chairman and major stockholder of ELS is a billionaire named Sam Zell. Forbes magazine says with $6 billion, he's the 52nd richest man in the United States.
Wait and see.
That's Zell talking to employees of the Chicago Tribune, part of the huge media empire he controls. But a lot of his fortune came from distressed property and troubled companies Zell bought on the cheap, then turned around for big profit. Money matters to this billionaire who once nicknamed himself the Grave Dancer. But money also matters to thousands of people who live in Zell's mobile home parks. This is a homeowners meeting at Contempo Marin, filled with desperate residents.
They're going to steal our equity, they're going to steal our livelihood, they're going to steal our life, all for their own corporate greed.
It's tough. Many mobile home residents are paying both mortgages on their homes and rent on the land underneath. If rent goes so high they can't afford it, they often can't afford to move either, because who would buy their homes with sky-high rent? This house is at the Modesto Park.
The people that owned it just walked away. They couldn't sell it, couldn't afford the rent on it, so they just turned it over to the bank.
Contempo Marin is also filled with homes for sale, and here just the threat of future rent hikes is scaring off buyers.
There is no sales happening here anymore. There is no homeowner here who can get away. They are incarcerated in their homes.
We tried to talk to ELS about their rent policies for an earlier story. They refused to sit down with us. So when we heard their regional vice president was in town, we tracked him down. I want to take a moment, if you can, to ask you about your company's effort to fight rent control in California. What's that about?
I regret that I will not be taking any of your questions.
And why is that? I just want to know what the policy is and what you're trying to achieve here.
Well, I'll refer you to our corporate office.
A PR company did send a statement saying San Rafael's rent control has the opposite effect of the city's stated intention. It created rents that were artificially low, which drove up the sale prices of homes. This serves no public purpose. In recent years, ELS has filed a barrage of lawsuits and appeals attacking rent control in 4 California cities. Most cases have ended with rent control still in place. But the San Rafael case could change that. And if it does, ELS stands to make a bundle.
They bought this park for less than $20 million because it was rent controlled. So they paid a rent control price for the park. And now they're attempting to get rid of rent control, which would make the value of the park some 5 or 6 times what they paid for it.
ELS is also fighting rent control at the ballot box. It just donated $50,000 to Proposition 98. That measure on the June ballot would eliminate rent control for both mobile homes and apartments. And if that doesn't work, residents worry ELS will just keep filing lawsuits, hoping local governments will decide it's just too expensive to keep fighting. That's exactly what happened at this senior citizen park in Santa Cruz. ELS tried to raise rents, in some cases as high as $5,000 a month. After years of legal battles, the city gave up before the case ever got to court.
They said, we just can't afford to do this anymore. We can't afford to fight it.
Ultimately, the city made a deal that keeps rent control in place for current residents. But when they leave, Santa Cruz agreed, ELS can raise the rent as high as it wants.
They used to count this as, as part of their affordable housing stock, and it's gone.
So what will happen to the growing number of seniors and others who will need affordable housing in the future? ELS would not talk about that. I'm here with you now. Why don't you just talk to me? You're a corporate officer. You can answer a couple of questions. There are a lot of people very nervous about what your company is doing. Can you give them some assurances about what your plan is? He offered no assurances. The appeal in the San Rafael case could take a couple of years. In the meantime, residents are still waiting to find out whether the judge will allow their rent on the land to almost triple while the case proceeds.
I know I can't pay it. I feel like I'm going to be evicted. I feel like I'm going to lose my house, and I'm still going to have a mortgage to pay after that.
They are vowing to stick together, but many are finding it tough.
This is killing us, just like it's killing all of you.
Worried about the future, waiting for an answer. Don't drive away, Peter. Let's just talk. Company officials sent us another statement saying they offered to meet with the Homeowners Association and the city of San Rafael to offer a transition plan. But the city is not interested in meeting, and the two sides have yet to work anything out. Now, the entire ELS response is at abc7news.com. If you would like to read it, look for it under Assignment 7.